In the last episode, I finished laying down the hardwood for the kitchen and the rest of the floor. So moving on to making the doors for the lower cabinet. Those are the planks that I'm going to glue up. The first plank I'm going to rip about 5/8 off the bottom here to get rid of the lighter patch. And the same thing with the third plank. I'm going to take off about 1 inch from the top here. So with those lighter strips gone, I'm going to try one more time to rearrange them just to see if there's any better grain combination. So I'm going to go with this. This here is the only area of concern, being lighter. But I think after staining it'll be fine. Before starting the glue up, I'm making sure that the joining edges are flat and square. This is a pretty simple process and only takes a couple of minutes, but it makes all the difference when it comes to getting a nice glue up. You can glue all 3 planks at the same time, but these are pretty wide, so I'm going to start with the bottom and the middle first to keep things simple. Normally, I don't wipe off the excess. I let it harden a bit and then scrape it off. But in this case, I did, so I can put on the clamps. Everything's going to get planed down anyways. And with the bottom 2 glued up, here I'm adding the top piece. So, exactly the same as what you would have seen on the drawer making video. Once these are combined, I go over the whole thing with the smoothing plane, getting rid of any glue residue, and flattening out any height variances. And then back to the restore. Again with the same 4-inch wire brush, I'll go over the whole board a few times on each side to get the right amount of texture. One thing to note, this wire brush likes to fling off the steel bristles like crazy, so eye protection here is extremely important. After texturing, it's time to cut it down the middle. Check the corners. And square off the ends. And then I bevel the edges. Give it a sanding. And then back to texturing. Okay, so hinges. It tells you right there, the center of the hole is 22.5 millimeter from the edge. But first, I need to mark 3 inches from the bottom and 3 inches from the top. And then cross it at 22.5 from the edge. And that's where I will dig. This is a 35 millimeter Forstner bit for the hinge boss, and I have the depth set to 1/2 inch. It's a pretty wide bit, and with a decently hard wood and walnut, I'm going with the lowest RPM possible and easing off to clear the shavings at a pretty regular interval. There's different kinds of hinges. This one is of the inset variety. Just checking that it's parallel. Centering drill bits are awesome. One more up top. So using a bunch of shims here to get the door in the exact position at the top and the bottom, and you can see I've already clipped on the mounting plates onto the hinges. So now I can simply drill the spots using the same holes. So that's on there now. They look like that now because there's no door stop, so gotta make that. But the initial gaps look pretty good. I think this side needs a little adjustment, but otherwise, on to the detail pass now. Again, same as before, this is the final texturing pass on the edges, except this open wire wheel is even worse than the restorer when it comes to the bristles flying off. Staining is also the same as before, 5:1 ratio between aged wheat and espresso, and I'm just using this shop towel to apply it and wiping it off after 10 minutes. So something that I like to do for the initial coating of poly, I spray the surface with water. Not a lot, just a couple of spritz. Water-based poly dries a little too fast, and with textured wood like this, it's not a big deal. But if you were trying to finish a smooth piece, you can run into brush marks, roping, bubbles, and all kinds of issues as you unintentionally overlap the drying areas. Just a cup of spray essentially acts as a thinner and an extender to a degree, so it's especially helpful with rougher pieces, and it makes it easier to glide over a large area quickly without having to fight the drying time so much. Now for the doorstop. Same copper piece as the door pulls with the same style. And I'm using the mini bender for the major bends. With some manual hammering for the bends that I can't do. And after punching the centers and drilling the holes, I cut off the excess and round off the edges. And then I went back to enlarge the holes so that when it's fastened, I can move it around a little bit for fine-tuning the placement. So if you notice, I'm using this soap stack to act as a temp door stop so I know where the door will be. And so now I can butt this up to the door and get it fastened. And the handle is going to be 1.1 from the side and the top. And there it is. The sink cabinet finally has the doors. At some point, I'll probably make a pull-out setup for the garbage and recycling, but that's a pretty low priority item for now. Next episode, I'll be installing the wall-mounted oven and the microwave. Until then, that's about that.